in the general floor meeting of August 23rd. You want to do a roll call first, Scott, and we'll do a pledge?
So I'll do a roll call of the remote members. Ms. Cheese?
Here.
Ms. Whitman? Ms. Whitman?
Here.
Mr. Strauss?
Good evening.
Mr. Trevino?
I'm here.
Mr. Abrams?
Here.
Ms. Engman?
Here.
Ms. Gapel?
Here.
Mr. Nitty?
Here. Here.
Ms. Strickland?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Tapak?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Trevino?
I'm here.
Leave it. Yep.
Good, thank you. Public comment, we have, Scott, anyone? President, sorry.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recording in progress.
Public comment, Scott, do we have anyone,
Nothing has been received prior to the meeting, but there's a number of people on the call. I don't see any hands.
anyone on the call would like to comment? Not hearing any. Okay. Approval of the minutes as a motion, I would accept the motion so we can do discussion.
I move that we approve the minutes from the July 26, 2021 General Forum meeting.
Second, Laura.
Got that, Scott?
Sure.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, thank you. Item 4, strategic plan update, there was a motion on that also, so I would accept the motion and move to discussion.
So moved.
Get this guy? Elliot, no second?
Second.
No, okay. Give it to Eric, and provide some background, and then we'll do a discussion with you.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for the opportunity to talk to you again about the strategic plan. We've been working on this throughout most of 2021. We have had surveys of the elected officials and the COG staff. We've worked with teams with the agency directors on a variety of things ranging from mission, vision, values, to starting to set goals and objectives. And you all may recall as a general forum, we did some work back in April with you, provided an update a couple months later, and now we're back, hopefully tonight, with the final set of the first pieces of the puzzle for the strategic plan, the mission and vision statements, and the values, as well as the overarching goals. And tonight we have a presentation from Daniel Newhart, who has been working with us for many months. He's on loan from the university, helping with our strategic planning, and has been facilitating the process, working with all of us. And he's going to go through some of the current status of the things I mentioned, and then answer questions and lead you through a little bit of discussion on some of the objectives. So I'll turn it over to Daniel.
Morning, Dad, or afternoon, Dad, but we,
Hi there, how's everybody doing?
there you go.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. And general forum room, I don't know if it's possible to mute your microphone, but I think some of us are getting some feedback on our end. Perfect. Okay, So as Eric said, I joined you all way back in April, and thankful to join you again. I turn my volume down, I don't hear that feedback as much, my apologies. But it's nice to see you all again, and as Eric said, we've been working really hard on this strategic plan, getting people involved. I want to thank all the elected officials again for your input on the survey we sent out a while ago. That would have been back in March. We used that to sort of shape the first mission and vision drafts that we had, and also some of the data you provided also helped us think about some goals or some objectives down the road. So what we're going to share with you today are the mission, vision, values, and goals as we sort of would like to proceed with them, given all the data we've collected from you, the conversations we've had with the COG staff, the agency directors, et cetera. So these are pretty close, but of course, as the plans continue to develop and what have you, there'll be other chances for you all to provide feedback. So go ahead and roll through this real quick. I'm going to show you all the mission and vision statements, and for those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with strategic planning as others, a mission statement is really about who the COG is and why they exist. So where we landed on our mission statement for the COG is here. So the Center Region Council of Governments supports the residents who live, work, and play in the diverse communities that make up the Center Region by providing cost-effective, consistent, and high-quality public services. The vision statement, and just as a reminder, a vision is sort of the aspirational part of your strategic plan, where you'd like to go. Here's the vision statement. The Center Region Council of Governments will continue striving to have a positive impact on the quality of life of those living, working, and playing in their Center Region by maximizing the benefits of shared services through municipal partnerships. And just a moment again, to be really specific about my gratitude for this group actually helped us develop some of the language around this continued striving to sort of build on the good work that's been done, and really this highlighting of partnerships. And speaking of that highlighting of partnerships, we actually use that word to frame the values of the strategic plan and the COG values. So I'll show you those. And you may recall I shared a little bit of what the values were sort of percolating as last time with the surveys, but we've taken that data and actually used the word partnerships to shape the values. So the P, I won't run through them all necessarily, but a couple I wanted to point out. Obviously, this idea of the COG being adaptable, being able to respond to the changing needs of everybody who's served by the COG. This idea of transparency, I remember the elected officials survey, that transparency part was really, really important. The idea of the COG being efficient, the idea of safety, honesty, integrity, and participation or participatory and inclusion. These were all really important things that popped out in the survey you gave us. So Eric and his staff worked really hard to kind of develop some definitions around these values. And values really end up in the plan being sort of how we actually do the work. So when we talk about goals, when we talk about objectives, we want to make sure, for instance, when we're delivering on the goals in the strategic plan, that we make sure transparency is present when we do deliver on those goals. That's how the values work in the plan. So as Eric mentioned, I'm also going to show you some other parts of the plan. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on some goals that are emerging. I want to see how you all feel about those. Last time, we seemed to be on the right track. Some of you may recall that I used the polling feature to kind of do some voting, and we seem to be going in the right direction, so we did some fine-tuning. And I'll be sharing some draft objectives, but really those are very much drafts. Those are more for, here's kind of what we're thinking, but these aren't finalized yet, and you'll definitely have input on those as they develop. So just as a quick reminder, just what goals, objectives, and strategies and tactics are, or again, for those of you who are newer to strategic planning, sort of some definitions. A goal is how you want your organization to evolve. And this could be the next 5 years, this could be the next 10 years, the next 15 years, basically how you want your organization to evolve as you move forward. The objectives say, how do we actually know we're making progress towards our goal? So sometimes with objectives, we'll do things like measure whether or not we're on target or successful with our goals. That's where that occurs. And then as we further develop the plan, we'll develop strategies and tactics to actually do these things. And just really quickly, strategies help us define how we move towards the objectives, and tactics are sort of more specific, very specific sort of tangible ways in which we hope to deliver on things. Where we're going to be spending most of our time today is around this goal. Remember, goals here are the vision that we have, how we deliver on that vision, how we actually hope to move forward. So the first goal, and again, we were pretty on target with this last time when we presented this to you, but just sort of presenting it again. Maximize, the first goal for the COG is to maximize the benefits of shared services through municipal partnerships. And again, just a moment of, I'm encouraged by all of you that are here, all of you that are participating, and all of you that participated in this service, because obviously municipal partnerships is very important to the COG working. And again, when we think about shared services across the COG, this goal talks about how do we do this in the best way through the COG and our municipal partnerships. And just some quick objectives. These are, again, drafts, so nothing's final about these. Sort of talking about how do we communicate around the benefits of shared services? How do we develop a mechanism to communicate about the benefits of shared services with the inputs from you all? How do we figure out, okay, we got municipal partnerships. Tell us more about how we develop a shared understanding of how those municipal partnerships our shared services contribute to those. And then finally, how do we make sure we are able to evaluate these services in the best way? So all of these objectives, don't get too hung up on these at the moment. They help us do this, but really what we're after here is how do we make sure we talk about benefits of shared services through the partnerships in the best way and continue to evolve over time. The second goal is we want to make sure that the public services that the COG deliver on, that we maximize those in a way that's high quality. So some of the objectives you'll see is sort of spending some time thinking about what does high quality mean, and how do we know we're delivering that in the most high quality fashion, which requires attention. We can't just sort of deliver on the service once and hope we're doing it the best way. New technology comes along, or new ways we understand how to do things. We want to make sure that that's present in the plan as well. So the first step is, well, what does it mean for something to be high quality? And this is really where we've got a number of the COG agencies who are doing things really, really well and can share with other people like you or other COG agencies about what it is they're doing well, what they're learning. Figure out how it is that shared services and high quality services interact, how do those two things interact with each other. Develop what's called a continuous improvement model. This is basically just how do we make sure high quality is the highest quality? Again, taking in new information and developing that in a way that delivers on services better and better over time. But of course, there are realistic limitations, obviously, cost limits, time limits, et cetera. So we want to make sure we're delivering on high quality services, but also we have very realistic limitations, budget limitations, time limitations. And then looking across the services in COG to figure out, are there opportunities that maybe we haven't spent some time looking at yet, or maybe that we could sort of collaborate upon that might help us deliver services in a more high quality way. So again, one of the beautiful parts about the COG strategic plan is it's able to look across all these services in partnership with you all and maybe identify some new areas of collaboration or some new areas for connection. Third goal is maximizing cost-effective and consistent public services. Again, in the survey to you all, cost-effectiveness and consistency came out really strongly. Across the municipalities, we want to make sure that these public services are delivered in a very cost-effective and consistent way. So we need to figure out what does cost-effectiveness mean, and how do we, again, balance that with high quality. How do we figure out if we understand what cost effectiveness means, how do we communicate that effectively? How do we figure out how to deliver outcomes of public services consistently? And this one, it kind of looks like the second one, but it's a little bit different. If we're talking about good outcomes, we need to figure out what the mechanism is for consistent delivery, not just cost effective, but how do we deliver that in a consistent way across the municipalities and across the areas that COG serves? And then finally, how do we maximize that network? So again, the goal identifies maximizing. Once we figure out what cost-effective and consistent means, how do we take that learning and then develop that in the best way possible for all of the spaces and places in which the COG serves? So that's the third goal. And the fourth goal, again, this was really important in our conversation last time, really important in the survey across the elected officials and the COG staff. So the fourth goal is the COG will impact the quality of life positively on those living in the center region. And this is a great goal. The reason this is a great goal is it's the goal that brings all the COG services together. This is the part in which we really hope that you all will help us understand as we develop the plan, how we can do this in the most effective way. And to your all's earlier comment back in April, continue to do this in the best way. So this goal ties things together across all the COG services, across all the work that you all do. I assume that each of us can see how we want to impact the quality of life here positively. This is an emerging goal. There aren't objectives here quite yet because we want to make sure that people participate in the process of developing this goal, right? So again, this goal, the purpose of this goal is to connect the work of the COG, all the agencies to one another, and connect the work that you all do as elected officials to understanding, well, what is? How do we know whether or not we've delivered on this impacting things positively over time? And this is where the objectives need your help. So some of what you all provided on the survey back in April actually gives us an idea of some strategies or tactics related here. I met with the agency directors a couple weeks ago and we started to brainstorm some objectives here, but really this is where we could get you all connected, get you all involved in the conversation as well. And I'll talk a little bit about some of that in the next steps here. So these are the next steps as we see them. So we need to obviously finalize those objectives, make sure we're on the right track there, but what's important is making sure the mission, vision, goals, and values are finalized. We can't proceed with the objectives unless we're sure that we're on the right track with the goals. We have all of this existing data from the survey you took, from the survey that the COG staff took, and from existing program plans or strategic plans from agencies where we can sort of plug and play. We can put strategies and tactics pen to paper, and they get you all involved in the development or review process of those strategies and tactics. So primarily, these strategies and tactics will be developed or worked on by the COG staff, but we're hoping that some of the committees, and I'm sure Eric will speak to this a little bit more, some of the committees in which you all are involved can hopefully help develop these strategies and tactics. We're developing key performance indicators and metrics, so how do we actually measure some of these things we talked about today? How do we measure whether or not we've impacted the quality of life positively? It may sound daunting at first. There are plenty of ways out there that people have tried to measure these things, or through the creativity or some of the work of the agencies already, they might have some measures in existence that they could apply to multiple spaces and places. And then finally, we're hoping that eventually we'll complete a final draft of plan and then start implementing it. So once we get a plan sorted, how do we actually do it, and how do we actually track progress in a way that is transparent, in a way that's consistent and communicative, again, going to those values. So that's where we're at as far as next steps. My role will be to help with the strategy and tactic development as things get going on that. And we also have a number of resources that we produce at the university that we use across all of our campuses, et cetera, to develop strategic plans. So we have some resources to really help guide this part of the plan as well. But again, we really need your input thinking about what are some meaningful strategies and tactics that would help us sort of flesh out this plan as we proceed. So I'll stop there, Eric, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Jim. Let's go take a round of, in the floor room, questions, discussion, and then we'll jump on the people that are on electronic. Anybody here? None? Oh, Teresa? Sure.
Comment. This motion we're voting on, what are we voting on? To continue working on this? Or this is going to be it?
That's the intent of the motion, yeah.
What, the motion to what?
Read it, adopt the mission, vision, statement, and values.
And then move forward on the draft.
Move forward.
Teresa?
Brings me to my comments. I hope that the staff members who finish this draft are English proficient. It's just redundant, it's repetitive, it's reiterative. And in fact, the vision thing usually is supposed to be that. This is very much that. It's also incredibly passive voice in most of these values. It would be nice to see any of these things put in the active voice as if we are going to do them. I have no problem. We sent out things and people commented on the mission and the values and the goals. And we came to a conclusion on all of those things are here, and none of several things that people said no to for various reasons from the entire group, as far as I can tell, are on here. But I would feel much more comfortable if we are going to make this presentation for everybody for the next however many years, if we do it with the best, I'm going to use the word wordsmithing, I apologize, if possible. And this actually makes me uncomfortable. I am not an English major. I never was an English major, but it makes me uncomfortable. So I would ask that staff try to clean up the language without losing the content.
Thank you for that. I think I caught about 7% of what you heard. I think you mentioned the word wordsmithing, using more active voice, and we certainly could do that over time. We have a number of good strategic plan examples that also I'm sharing with the staff as a possible resource as they develop the plan as well. So hopefully that will help tighten up some of the language too.
No?
I'm a nerd for strategic planning, so I love this. And I'm sure Daniel can attest to this, that it only works if it is put in practice. So not only developing it and putting it on a piece of paper and saying that we approve it and put our stamp on it, but truly integrating it into the COG processes throughout the year, maybe putting it into our program planning where we evaluate this on an annual basis as well as all of the program plan goals as well. So as long as it's just not a piece of paper on a shelf or in a frame and we're actually incorporating it into the work that we do, I'm all for it. Love it. Good job.
She got a hand locked on the lock.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Danelle. I agree with what you're saying, and I like that idea a lot. I guess I would add a comment on process that for us to really do that, to really take ownership, I think it would probably hear me like a broken record on this. It would probably have been helpful for the municipalities to be able to kind of like see this, maybe talk about it. Sometimes it's hard at general forum to have large conversations. Now we're hybrid. So I don't know, it's just maybe something to think about. And then I just wanted to offer one comment on the content, which I actually thought was well done. I was focused less, I think, on like the voice and stuff and more on the content. And one area that I was kind of waiting to see and may have been sort of broached in certain points, but I didn't hear it maybe said explicitly, and I think it's maybe a core issue. I agree with the value of COG, and I can see it pretty easily. I think the words did a good job, but one place that seems to be a constant problem for us, because we are individual entities and also one entity together, so it's an interesting identity experiment. One issue I think that we have difficulty with is duplicativeness. And so efficient, some things broach that, but I think really being aware of that and how to maybe accept it as a thing and then benefit from it instead of sort of maybe seeming like pretending it doesn't happen or something to that effect. So thank you very much.
Elliot, I don't.
Oh, yes, okay. I'm looking at this, and on one hand, I think it's wonderful and great, and the other, I think it's totally lacking. Because I don't see any place here where there's a jumping off between where we are now and where we want to go. Because most of these things I think we've already worked on to some success and to some failure. But the roadmap should actually show us how to go in a new direction and why we should go in that direction. Not just because all this is great to hear, but I've been hearing it for many years. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. In other words, I think we can totally accept it, but what does it mean?
Thank you, Elliot. Others? I have a minor point with that, you mentioned it. In the mission and vision, we have residents who live and work and play. I'm wondering if we should speak to visitors, because the visitor is a major part of our population almost all year long. And there are a number of services that COG provides to the visitor. Alpha Fire is one. If someone comes here, they depend upon our emergency services to help them. So, is it too minor to include residents and visitors in the mission and vision? Or is that to be included in the word play? Because some come to play, some come to work, and some just come.
Maybe maybe in the explication of it, I don't know if you're looking for conversation, Denny, as I said, it's hard to have.
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking out loud.
It's hard to have it COG but I think you're right about their value, but I don't know if it flows well with the work, live and play visitors, but I understand the meaning of it, and maybe the consultant could try to integrate it in a manner that's maybe less direct or something, I'm not sure.
Their contribution economically is major.
Yeah, truth.
Is that because of their work or their play or, put it on the table, think about it. Anyone else?
I'll just throw in my 2 cents. I guess I'm really proud of the COG staff for the wording of this. Doing these types of things can be very difficult, and especially writing can be very difficult, but as an English major, I was reading through this and I found it actually very readable and positive, so I just kind of wanted to throw in that opinion as well.
Thank you. Other comments electronically or in person? We do have a motion and a second. All in favor of,
Well, Mr. Chair, if it's the consensus that some tweaking needs to be done, we could table the motion and bring it back next month, or if
I'm just saying, let's vote.
your head was going. I'm
Oh,
not
sorry,
sure.
I say let's vote.
Okay.
Motion in a second. Finish
We have a
vote.
motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There are a lot of ayes, not too many negatives. So.
We gotta ask for the negatives.
You have
What?
to ask.
You have to ask for them.
Negative, same side. Are you voting?
I'm not.
Oh, okay,
I'm-
okay. Okay, thanks, Dan. I think you took care of a few points we get input to. Come back to us another time. So, okay, good, thank you. Energy Services Consultant, we have a motion on that. I would entertain a motion to accept that.
So moved?
Justin? What?
Yes.
Second. Part of that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Peter, are you on? Where'd Peter?
I will share my screen and just provide some background information where we are right now, and then you all can discuss or ask questions.
You all see that?
We lost his voice.
Can you see me?
That's right.
We can't hear him.
Yes.
Somebody say something to him.
Now can you hear me?
Peter, hold it.
You're very quiet, Peter.
You need to speak up. Go ahead.
Mostly we can hear them fine, at least I can.
Oh, so for those in the general forum room, are you having trouble?
Gonna wake us up, Peter.
We hear you now.
Another.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, it's good to see you all here this evening virtually. I want to thank you all for your support to this point on behalf of the Solar Power Purchase Agreement Working Group, a 15-entity conglomeration of 6 municipalities, 6 authorities, the State College Area School District, the Center County Government, and the State College Area School District. It has been quite a joy to work with these people, and we look forward to continuing to work together. So over the last couple of years since we came together, we have already accomplished things that are worth noting. So you all passed cost-sharing agreements for us to look into procuring the services from an energy consultant. We drafted a request for proposals for that consulting, and that was well vetted and had a lot of expertise from our own authorities, as well as COG staff and representatives from the different entities involved. We've also been recognized for the level of collaboration that we have and how far we've gotten from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. We're included, as many of you know, in a cohort hosted by the Rocky Mountain Institute and the World Resources Institute for our progress to date as an energy aggregation cohort. In October, a subset of us will be presenting at the local government commission symposium in Harrisburg on progress to date, because we serve as a potential model for intergovernmental cooperation in pursuit of renewable energy in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So to date, as you all are well familiar, we have come together in this 15 group to assess renewable procurement needs. We've already found partners, and we've aligned on a governance structure, a structure of mutuality participation, and we have that cost sharing agreement as well. The COGS portion of which I will share in just a moment. From here, assuming that you all pass and the other 14 entities pass the motion that's in the agenda, we will then be able to work with a consultant to look at a good desired project, draft that proposal, and then hopefully work with a developer. So the request for proposal review team for the energy services consultant came from the State College Area School District, the State College Borough Water Authority, from CATA, State College Borough, and from the COG itself. This group worked very well together, not only on the initial drafting, but then in reviewing the 5 proposals that came forward, respond requests from any potential consultants. Then the proposals were scored. They whittled down to 5 to 2, interviewed 2 firms, and then came together to make a unanimous recommendation to the working group itself. So the energy services consultant would be contracted to investigate the viability of a solar power purchase agreement. And so, as I just said, the recommendation does come out to the 15 entities. I am here tonight as the chair of that group and as the COG's representative to the group to ask that you vote in the affirmative for the proposed motion. The total cost that was in the proposal for Green Sky is $75,000, and the breakdown proportionally for the COG then is about $4.5 and about $3,555, no more than. So key dates for you all to know, and this is all included in the fact sheet that's attached to the agenda, would be that the boards and councils, including the COG itself, would endorse the hiring of the services consultant. We believe that Half Moon has already done this. And then September 15th, the working group recommends that the State College Area School District hire the services consultant. Then the 15th through October 1st, we review, negotiate the price, the contract, and then finally in early October, that the district, on the working group's recommendation, award the contract. So you did already make this motion, and I did hear a second. And if there are any questions, I am here to answer them, as is Jesse Barlow, who was part of that recommendation group.
Questions of Peter or Jesse? Either here or on electronic?
Actually,
Jesse?
I want to add a comment because Peter was recused from the interview process for the consultants. We came down to two sets of consultants, and basically the one that we picked by far, I mean, it was a wide consensus among the group, understood our needs far better than the other group did. And because partly they had done similar work with the state, and partly just the rapport between us and that group seemed a lot better. They actually came out here. And that was a general impression across the board with everybody, including people on the committee who are technically more qualified than I am. So that's just the impression I want to give out there for the process of picking a consultant.
Thank you, Justin. Let's see any new hands on the screen. Let's see.
Dan?
Oh.
I'm just curious, I suppose we'll find out sooner or later, what is this consultant going to tell us? What are we asking you to tell us?
Did you get that, Peter?
I did. So you're asking, is that Bud?
Yes. I'm sure we'll get that information, but what are we going to ask this consultant to tell us?
So the scope of work for the consultant includes helping us understand the current market in PJM, the grid in which the COG sits, the potential contracts that we could enter into. So that could be a virtual power purchase agreement, it could be a physical power purchase agreement. It's much more likely a physical PPA and a virtual PPA. They would also help us understand the risks involved, as risk, with the counterparty is something that we would need to evaluate, and we want to make sure that we hedge ourselves well. They can also help us to incorporate thinking about the discussion you all just had about the strategic plan, the kinds of values that we would want to embed in the request for proposals. So an example of that could be the State College Area School District wanting to have access to a physical site so that students could learn from visiting a solar site. So these can be kind of complicated, and most of us are not used to negotiating such things and understanding what the market is. So that's really what the services consultant would be doing.
I'll tell you, Peter, that at 5:30, the Center County Recycling Refuge Authority voted unanimously to accept this motion. So you're down to 14.
All right, that's great to hear.
Laura, okay.
Thank you, Chair. My comment is probably the same one that some have heard me say before, which is I know sort of the parameters of the eventual project are still to be determined to some extent, but particularly when you're emphasizing, students being able to access that facility for learning, which is a great thing, it then provides, I guess, further constraints on what kind of maybe eventual location of this facility maybe that's going to be serving us, if that's the direction that this whole effort takes. And just in the past, I've stated, and I want to just keep restating that we wouldn't want to, use forest land really for a massive solar array. And I know some people are like, oh, why are you even saying that? Because it happens all the time. And I wouldn't want to see that happen in this case. Thank you.
So if I can follow up on that, I really appreciate Ms. Denny's comments about that. So one of the things that we can do to constrain where the location is, I mean, you can constrain location in the request for proposals, such that you can just say, if you are located in an area such as, the group would automatically be thrown out. There can also be a geographic boundary put on a request for proposals that would be within Center County or within, the surrounding, group of counties or something like that. So that if regional economic development would be something that would be important, that would be great. I will say that because the school district is involved, the good that's provided, we would have to go with the lowest bid because of the way that state law constrains the district's purchases. So lots of things should be put into a request for proposals so that you get the project that you want. And Green Sky would certainly be able to do that because they've provided evidence.
Thank you. I think that would be very important that we would want to constrain that up front because forest land is probably some of the cheapest land. So that would be very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further comment? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Not hearing any. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pete. Item 6 is the IT study. It also has a motion contained on the bottom of page 5 and top of page 6. I'd ask for a motion to accept that.
I'll move that the general forum as recommended by the executive and finance committees authorize the selection of Weidenhammer to perform the COG IT assessment and prepare a 5-year information technology plan, and that the executive director be authorized to execute the necessary agreements at a cost not to exceed $78,600 to be funded $25,000 from the 2021 budget and $53,600 in the 2022 budget.
Second.
Have a second on that?
Second.
Elliot? Okay. Discussion? Comments? Eric?
Thank you. I think most of you are familiar with the fact that this study has been talked about for a number of years, and we picked up last fall in updating the RFP that was prepared in 2017, had student help from Penn State University on that. Earlier this spring, we released the RFP and had interest from 8 vendors. 2 ultimately submitted proposals, and we began the evaluation process, screening those proposals. And at a point that we realized and felt that we needed to get direction from the finance committee, we paused the evaluation because both of the proposers had submitted prices that were above the budget for the current year. And we asked the finance committee for feedback on 3 options. One would be budgeting more money this year through a budget adjustment. One would be rejecting the bids and starting over again in the new year with more money budgeted. And the third option, which was option B on the list, was to begin the project later this year with the money available this year and budget the rest of the funds for next year. With that option recommended by the Finance Committee, we proceeded with the evaluation and checked references, completed interviews, all of that with Weidenhammer, and they are the preferred recommended vendor by the IT Steering Committee, which is made up of staff and an external IT expert. And 3 of the representatives from Weidenhammer are with us tonight remotely in case there are any questions about their proposal or how they approach the project or other work that they have done. But we feel they're the recommended vendor that can do the job and has done work for a diversity of clients similar to the diversity that the COG presents. So that's our recommendation. And the agreement is with the COG solicitor right now for review.
Questions? Comments? Discussion? All in favor of
Oh,
proceeding?
wait.
Oh.
Hi. I'm sure, Eric, you know, I might be saying something here. I noticed in the RFP that it's primarily all of the COG agencies. And in interest of some of our goals of trying to have cost-effective and consistent services, I know it may not fit into the scope of this particular project, but definitely would like to look in the section other relationships with the municipalities, if there is a way that the improvement or the planning for the COG IT can also have positive impacts on the municipality IT systems, potentially group purchasing, licensing, equipment, those kind of things, to take advantage of anything that COG is getting improvements in would be highly recommended. But again, I know it probably doesn't fit in the scope of this particular project, but keep that in mind for maybe phase 2.
Okay, thank you.
This sort of fits into the shared
Exactly.
code program, the new software that code is looking at.
Yes,
Respect
there's definitely things that municipalities already take advantage of, which is wonderful. If there are more things that can happen along the way, that's ideal.
Others? Anybody on screen? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign? There you go, thank you. Number 7 is the resolution forming land use and community. There's a motion, I'll accept the motion on that. Discussion, someone want to move that?
I'd like to move, Betsy Whitman. I'd like to move that the general forum, as recommended by the executive committee, recommends approval of resolution 2021-8 to merge the Public Services and Environmental Committee and Transportation and Land Use Committee into the Land Use and Community Infrastructure Committee effective January 1st, 2022, as endorsed by the Joint Public Services and Environmental and Transportation and Land Use Committees.
I'll second that because I chair public services, so. Okay, discussion, anyone? And we'll go to Mr. May. Jim did a very good.
Okay. All right, well, we'll talk soon. Okay, Mom.
All right, Mark.
Give us the same 1 hour presentation you did at exec.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly for people who are not familiar what we've been doing with these 2 committees.
Can you come a little closer? Jim, come a little closer to the mic. We're having.
Okay.
That's
You're
good.
gonna see my full screen face here, so.
That's fine.
Yeah, the PSE and 2 committees have been meeting since early this year to talk about merging these 2 committees. And some of the municipalities just had 1 member on the committee, some kept 2 with just 1 vote. But we also wanted, the members of those committees wanted to stay on through the end of the year. So we're making the formation of the new committee effective on January 1, 2022, so we'll be ready for your organizational meetings. I wanted to go over just briefly some of the duties. So for public services environmental duties that related to sustainability and refuse and recycling were transferred over to the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee, which was created over a year ago. And issues regarding Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO, that go to the Center County Metropolitan Planning Organization Executive Committee and Technical Committee were reported also to the Transportation and Land Use Committee. There was a lot of redundancy in that reporting effort, so we're going to reduce some of that reporting once the Land Use and Community Infrastructure Committee is formed in 2022. That'll save a lot of redundancy in reporting, reduce some of the staff responsibilities that we have as well. So I want to thank members of the 2 committees for getting us to this point. And there's also a working document on the SharePoint file that has a lot more information about what the committee will be doing in 2022. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Denny, for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Jim. You can sit back from the mic now, Jim. Questions? Discussion? Anybody on? Laura?
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Jim. I actually did come up with a question, and it relates to public safety. I was recalling that one of the tasks of the Public Safety Committee is to coordinate with, I believe it's PS&E, on energy-related kinds of things. And as you were talking, I was also realizing, like, there's say, like, a bridge between now the climate change committee that deals with refuse and code, you know, like West Nile virus, refuse, that kind of stuff is managed by code through the property maintenance code, if I understand correctly. Anyway, my point is that there is that bullet on public safety on our tasks that ask us to coordinate with PS&E. So will we be also updating that bullet through public safety to now coordinate with Lucy and the Climate Action Committee in those matters, wherever they might occur? That's all. You don't have to answer tonight. It was just coming to me, and it'll be a group project to align those things. So thank you.
Thank you a lot. Blue hands on the screen. Not hearing any, I see any. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Same side, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 8, resolution 2021-9. There's a motion on that, I would accept the motion.
So moved.
Mr. Myers, you have a second?
Second?
Carla, okay. My best, okay.
I just have a question. Is this resolution going to be publicized in any way?
Our most resolution is publicized.
You never do anything with it.
All of the resolutions are posted on our website, but you know, this is different from some of our resolutions in that it is a call to action and requesting others to a recommendation and an urgency of some sort. So I'm sure the media will help us spread the word, and we will use some of the social media capabilities of the COG.
That would be wonderful. That's the only reason I'm asking, because I'm not a great fan of resolutions just to say something without actually doing something about it. So if there is a way to publicize it so more than just us read it, would be fantastic. That's my only comment. Thank you.
I've asked Eric and Rich to take the lead in discussing. Rich, why do you want to lead off on this?
Certainly. Working with the chair and COG staff, we built this draft resolution and first brought it to the executive committee last Thursday to bring forward to the general forum for discussion and potential approval, and to your point, publication. The goals of the resolution were to speak out in a regional voice rather than the municipality by municipality that we've kind of gone over the past couple or over the last rounds of COVID. Most of our residents and certainly our visitors have no idea when they cross a municipal boundary and everything. So if we can say as a region, these are the things that we'd really like to see you do, it has benefit. It sets a baseline. Obviously, each individual municipality can go further should they so desire. The other element of it is timing. We only meet once a month. Activities are certainly ramping up here in the center region. If we're going to have a statement, it seems like timing is good now, and potentially a good message now versus a perfect message later. And those were our main goals.
Eric, anything to add to that?
I have nothing else, thanks.
See, we just worked on the draft of that. Rich took the lead. Did a good job, so we thank you, Rich. Questions, comments? Anyone on screen? Blue hands out anywhere? Not seeing any. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Not hearing any. I'm going to call up Bruce because
Chairman, yes.
Pardon?
Yes.
No, you asked another comment. want to talk about something after we talk about?
I want to make a motion, and in light of the letter that the executive committee sent on our behalf to Penn State, I move that the general forum strongly encourage member municipalities to require vaccination or verification of vaccination of all their employees against the virus that causes COVID-19, and the Center Region Council of Government require the same of its employees.
Second.
There was a second somewhere.
Teresa.
Teresa, okay. Discussion.
Could Bruce read the very beginning of that again? Right to the part of requiring vaccinations, he moved that.
Bruce, you're on for this.
The general forum strongly encourage member municipalities to require vaccination or verification of vaccination of all employees, all their employees, against the virus that causes COVID-19. And the Center Region Council of Governments require the same of its employees. And this is essentially the same language that's in the letter that we have sent to Penn State. It's a matter of, I don't like being in the position of do as I say and not as I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Other hands on the screen? Hearing anyone?
Mr. Miller has his hand up.
Oh, Steve?
So of course it is.
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm not questioning the motion itself or the reason behind it, but my question is whether it's proper for us to introduce a motion of this sort without being in the agenda and just, sort of throwing what is essentially a new item on the agenda at this point. I think that this is sufficiently different from what we just passed that it is actually a new item. And I'm not sure that this is the correct process to introduce a new item. That's all.
Under the new state technicality, it needs to be advertised 24 hours in advance of the action. So you are correct in that point, Steve.
Or it can be advertised after the fact. If I understood.
Yeah, I thought we could move to put it on the agenda, but I thought that typically did happen at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know if that's a technicality or courtesy, but then I think you have to then update the agenda wherever it's, been promoted to include that item, post meeting. But I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know.
I'm not either. Input, Eric?
I tend to agree, and Adam's nodding his head as well, that I think the agenda needs to be amended to reflect this new item. And a little hard to do since we have a motion on the floor, but I think the agenda would need to be amended to reflect this, and then we would need to properly post the amended agenda.
Would the maker of the motion and the second table, but I'm trying to get it into the next month's activity. Evan?
So in the past, first of all, I don't think this is a legal question. I think this is a procedural question that probably falls under Robert's Rules of Order or whatever rules that we follow in this meeting, because Robert's Rules of Order are sometimes followed and sometimes amended, and there's all kinds of different versions of that. So I'm not sure, but this is not the first time that an item has been brought forward to the general forum in the 8 years that I've been a member that was not on the agenda, that was then discussed and either adopted or rejected. It's happened at least a dozen times that I can think of over those 8 years, and sometimes multiple times within a meeting. And sometimes things arise that are so important that to delay them, to push them off for another month, defeats the whole purpose of doing it. So from a procedural standpoint, I would object to pushing it off a month. It's been brought forward. People can vote yes or no, it's up to them. But I think that would be a disservice if we postpone it.
I tend to agree with you. We have a motion. Oh, Bishop.
I think that putting it where you just did, the resolution urging precautions as the Delta variant causes. Every day this week, we have seen 20 or more people, based on the numbers coming out of Mount Nittany, hospitalized. We are seeing a rise in deaths. I think 30 days is wasting time. We, even if we pass this tonight, are not going to see any of the region rush out tomorrow and make everybody get their shots, even though they are now fully approved. This takes time and it takes effort. And I'm tired of watching people play Russian roulette with our lives, with their lives, with the children who can't be vaccinated lives. This is not a game. It's not a political statement. It's a question of public health and survival. We've lost over 2,000 people in the region. That's a lot of people. And I think we need to do our best to ask each community and to work together to do the best we can to provide protection to as many people as possible. And so I think we should just vote on this, and I hope that other people will agree and that the various communities will do the best they can to make sure that the shots are shared with as many people as possible. Certainly those in our public spaces.
There's 3 hands on the screen, all that?
I think the thing that changed is the fact that one of the versions of the vaccine was officially approved today. And this is something that hadn't existed before. And so if we have to wait 30 days for something to change today to be an approval thing, we're wasting our time every month. So I think that this doesn't force anybody to do anything. It suggests that we do something. And the only argument I can say against it, Joe, is that if we let government tell us to do this kind of thing, pretty soon they'll be telling us we're seatbelts.
Get a polio vaccine.
We're discussing something that's not.
I've got two other speakers.
Discussion on the content of it now.
Right, but should
Point of
somebody move to
order.
put it on the agenda, wasn't that? I'm just wondering.
The suggestion was to vote on it tonight. And we have,
I would like to call for a clarification on a point of order that I think Carla is trying to bring up, and that's why my hand is up, and I just wanted for us to clarify so we know which direction we're taking here, whether or not this is allowed. And Evan, I just wanted to say that there was an amendment to the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, which is what we're talking about. So even if in the past we've done this, I'm not yet clear that I think we are permitted, and I think that's what Eric Nornberg said, but I wanted to get clarification on what he said in terms of this business with the agenda. I'm looking right now. Tom Wolf on June 30th, 21 signed these amendments. And so can we or can we not consider the item, and then we can move to discussion if we can consider the item. I think we can, but can we verify that? Thank you.
Can we have a motion to put it on the agenda?
That's what you need.
That's what we need to do.
That's what you need.
Tonight, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to place Mr. Lord's resolution on this evening's agenda.
Second.
I think he has to withdraw his motion first, doesn't he? Because there's a motion and a second already.
The question hasn't been called on his motion yet, but
I think the chair could rule the earlier motion out of order, and then the motion from Mr. Frank could happen, and then
we'll go back. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's acceptable to me.
yeah, you can retract yours.
And will you do that, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we need a second, which is.
Who did the second on Bruce's?
Mr. Meyer.
So they've agreed to retract. Now we have your motion.
Which is to place Mr. Lord's resolution, proposed resolution on this evening's agenda.
And a second on that one.
Mr. Meyer seconded,
Okay.
yes.
All in favor of that, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we have it on the agenda, now we'll move on the motion, please.
Any further discussion?
The public, there's a hand up there.
Oh, Jenny, okay. Jenny?
Well, let's put the
She's
motion,
fine.
let's put the
Yeah,
motion on
can
the
you read the
table.
motion one more
Yes.
time for us all?
I move that the general forum strongly encourage its member municipalities to require vaccination or verification of vaccination of all employees against the virus that causes COVID-19, and that the COG, Center Region Council of Governments, require the same of its employees.
Second,
She's second.
Teresa, second. Discussion? All in favor, signify by
Wait.
Hand up for a while.
Thank you. Strongly encourage to require vaccination or verification of vaccination. My question is, what happens if they don't? And is that part of this process, or is this just one of those, we're strongly encouraging this, but we're not following up with it?
If I may, it's the same wording as the letter that we sent to the university.
With the exception of how you've brought the COG back in, it should be referenced similar to the municipalities. You've made a separate statement for the COG.
Right.
I
I
think it
added
should
that
follow
to
the same pattern as the municipalities, what you suggest for the municipalities.
And maybe I'm ignorant to that, I don't know what that process is.
So I think what they're saying is for the municipalities, what we're talking about is strongly urging the municipalities to require vaccinations for their staff. And for COG, we're saying right now, we require vaccinations for staff. Is that correct?
Right, spot on, Laura, spot on.
Thank you.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
I saw a note on the screen, it says Tammy H. raised a hand,
But Jenny was.
Jenny on again?
So I just have a quick question in regards to the information that was just presented. I was on the last meeting actually and was not presented with the form to be able to comment on the letter that's going to Penn State. And I did see that in the last meeting you had made a little bit of change on that letter to vaccinate only on-campus students and those participating on campus activities. So if you are strongly encouraging or mandating, township or community members to get vaccinated, then why are you not asking faculty and staff of Penn State as well to be mandated to get the vaccine and not just the students? Because to me, that's discrimination.
Good. She raised a question, so.
Oh, I understand, it's with regard to the letter that was approved out of executive committee. And it was, it did only include students in that version.
But to clarify, what we're not, right now, we're not considering trying to mandate residents to be vaccinated. Just to clarify, we're only considering it for COG staff and to strongly urge for municipal staff.
Okay, so, but you, in this new letter, you're asking Penn State to require all students to be fully vaccinated who live on campus. So why just students who live on campus? Why are you not asking your own people to be vaccinated as well?
How's this germane to the motion?
Why is it just students? Do you guys not understand that there are students and community members out there that for some reason, whatever it be, their philosophical, religious reasons or medical reasons, cannot get this vaccine?
Which is why the rest of them have to.
So this is a separate discussion about that.
That's a totally separate discussion, Diane. Elliot, you have your hand up, please.
I think that what we're trying to do is be a little aspirational here, we're not forcing anybody. I think that people who are, not for religious reasons or any other reasons that are legitimate, that's fine, I don't think anybody's, wants to restrict that. But there's a vast group of people, and somewhere in the middle here, that we're trying to encourage as strongly as we can to do this. Now, how can we change the language so that it does that rather than irritate?
I think it could be definitely changed to say that, we are strongly encouraging students on campus instead of,
That's not this.
required.
This is the discussion out of line. Steve Miller, please, you have your hand up. Steve?
Yeah, I just have a question then as far as what our actual motion is. Because Elliot just said we are strongly encouraging everyone, but we've also said we are requiring it of COG employees without any statement that there's an exception for any reason. The other question I have is this something that the general forum can require, or is that an administrative decision that really goes, that we're making a recommendation to the director, or are we requiring it? Because the motion says we're requiring it. My interpretation would be that we can ask the director, but I don't think we can require the director to do that.
Mr. Chairman, to the first point, I don't think the COG, the general forum, can make requirements of member municipalities. We are separate entities. So that to the first point. To the second point, I don't know the nuances of that.
I agree with Steve.
My first point had nothing to do with municipalities. My points have to do with COG. The first point is, do we allow any exceptions for someone who has a reason, medical or religious, not to do that? If we're saying we're requiring it, the question is, are we requiring it 100%, or are we going to put that exception that was stated in this meeting, but not as part of the motion? My second point was just, can we require it as a general forum, or can we only recommend to the director that it be required? I'm not sure that the general forum, as elected officials, have that authority. I think that may be an administrative matter.
I agree with Steve's interpretation of how this is maybe a mismatch in terms of, I think that it's executive committee that's supposed to direct the executive director of COG. So I'm really not trying to be picky and delay things. I'm trying to actually do proper process here. So if I'm incorrect about that, I would love to be corrected. But I do agree with Steve that if this is the proper forum, that we should be directing the executive director. We can't, I don't believe that we can do this directly. And on the other item of whether we should allow exemptions, I think we should definitely allow like health exemptions. So I don't know if we're discussing that yet, but I would say absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I'd accept an amendment to allow exemptions for religious and health reasons.
Who did the second on that?
I did the second, and I'm perfectly happy to second that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't personally feel comfortable there's a big jump between recommending that HR and immediate directors of personnel word and make those decisions and come up with a process, exactly what Danelle was saying. There's a huge jump between that and a group of 37 people one night saying, yeah, let's do that. I'm not comfortable making that decision tonight without people being involved who are, their job and their career is based on making sure that their employees are happy and safe. I feel like for me, we're crossing a line right now when it comes to that. I'm open to recommending to municipalities that they consider it. Same wording as we did with Penn State. I don't personally feel comfortable making HR decisions for the COG staff tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from the executive director how he would like to proceed with that portion.
Thank you. We have collectively, the agency directors and myself have been really trying to encourage vaccinations for well, as long as vaccinations have been available, we've helped lobby and try to get vaccinations to be available. Remember back when there were different tiers for different staff, and we really worked as hard as we could to make sure that vaccinations were available as early as possible for different tiers of staff, particularly those that were at risk based on their work. So one of the things that I think we have been fairly successful in doing is encouraging the vaccinations, but we have not been requiring, and we have not been requiring proof of vaccination. What we have been doing was incentivizing with time off, so that anybody who needed time off to get their vaccine or who needed to take some time off the next day or two to recover due to side effects and those sorts of things. So I think the announcement today will encourage even more staff to get vaccines because of the Pfizer approval. That should really be a plus for us, and I'm really encouraged by that. My recommendation would be that you request the executive director to explore all possible options for incentivizing or encouraging vaccines, but not required of staff. I don't know what the unintended consequences of a requirement would be that could possibly cause staff to choose to potentially resign rather than face a mandate. So that's the concern I would have.
Nigel?
Thank you. As a former long-standing chair of the Human Resources Committee, I think it's really quite appropriate for the general forum to direct the executive director to do our wishes. We approve a pay plan every year. We approve job descriptions, disciplinary procedures. So this falls under that same purview, I believe, that so technically by making this motion, we would be telling the executive director to enforce this. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
I just wanted to clarify that I'm not opposed to this idea, but I will be voting against this motion as it's written because I think that the idea of the 32 of us making a policy decision with no policy defined and no written policy of what happens if someone does not do this, what happens if someone refuses, what happens if someone objects, I think is completely the wrong process for us to follow. So I will be voting against it on process, not on what I think the intent is.
Thank you. So I was wondering if maybe we could try to get to consensus, and I think, you know, I understand why it was kind of like last minute, but I'm definitely hearing a lot of people have concerns about very specific important things, but also we want to maybe move this forward. So first, I guess I would want to suggest that maybe we one more time, like, retract the motion if we can and break it into two, so that one is strongly considering asking for the municipalities to strongly consider the vaccination of employees, and then two, asking for the executive director to come back to the HR committee with a path forward to move to 100% vaccination other than health exemptions for COG staff. So breaking it apart into two, doing the easy one, and then refining the more difficult one to include the process concerns that we've heard tonight, which I think are valid, while continuing to move it forward as fast as possible. I was wondering if we could build maybe consensus around that.
Is that a motion to divide the question?
That's what I'm doing.
Great.
If somebody would accept it, I'm not sure
Do
who.
we have a second?
I second that.
Thank you. The original motion accepts that.
I'm sorry, I have a point of order. How can, you can't have two motions on the floor at the same time?
You can have
You have one motion, you have another motion. You can't have two motions on the floor.
motion to divide is a subsidiary motion.
If you accept that, yes.
Yeah, I accept it, yeah.
Okay, so you accept my amendment to your motion to break it into two.
Yes, I accept the motion to divide.
Okay.
Okay, so on the first part of the motion, can we state that that motion by Bruce is to strongly encourage the municipalities to consider a vaccination mandate for their employees while accommodating for health exemptions? Is that it?
Requirement.
We have a second to Laura's motion.
Wait.
Bruce is, I'm just refining it.
We have a motion to divide, I call for the question.
We accepted the motion to divide.
Oh, we didn't vote on
We
it.
have to
Oh,
vote
you
on
didn't
it.
vote on it, sorry.
Was there a second to the division?
I
Yes.
seconded.
Okay. All in favor of splitting the motion into two, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're going to,
Can I ask Bruce to read his original first statement again, please?
Okay, yeah, so if I may, I'll put forth the motion that the general forum strongly encourage member municipalities to require vaccination or verification of vaccination of all their employees against the virus that causes COVID-19.
got a second here?
Second.
Discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hold on a second. Don't we go by the raised hand thing here anymore?
Oh, Elliot had his hand up.
For a long time. But now you can forget what I was gonna say, except that, this whole thing, you can see what the country's going through right now. For example, when Carla raised her objections before, that's one side, and another side is you could say that anybody walking around who hasn't been vaccinated and is spreading the virus, it's reckless endangerment or attempted murder. Where does that apply? And so there are two extremes here. Now, how do we sort this out to be the maximum encouragement and the least irritating? And maybe this motion doesn't.
We accepted the first part of Laura's motion, we had a vote on that. Now Laura, you're gonna proceed with the second part of the motion, of another motion.
Sure.
I said no. Let Bruce.
I think it's Bruce's, actually,
I'm gonna I move that the COG General Forum strongly encourage the Center Region
Executive
Council of
Director.
Governments to encourage,
He's wordsmithing it.
yeah,
Strongly encourage the COG executive director to require.
thank you,
Okay.
with the previously mentioned exceptions.
Right, we have the exceptions. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
We have discussion on that. Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Well, I did.
Two.
I think.
Did I hear any opposition on the,
Hopefully vote again.
on the titles?
Carla, Patty,
Two, I think.
who online is opposed?
I didn't hear it.
I thought I saw Bob's hand up, maybe,
Bob
yeah,
Ross.
there we go.
Oh,
Strauss.
thank you, let's move on. University report. Distributed? Good, okay. State College School District, is Gretchen on?
Yeah.
No, okay. Executive Director report.
There is an activity report that was in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions about items there, or agency directors will be able to assist. Otherwise, we do have a report from one of our agency directors on the happenings at the library.
Lisa, are you on?
Yeah, hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. I wanted to make sure I gave everybody just a little taste of what was going on at the library. It's been quite a summer, and we have some good news to share. I wanted to let you know that the physical material usage is recovering. We're continuing to see a return to physical material use, especially in the children's department. We have been overjoyed the past months to see kids returning to the library, checking out really big stacks of books, sometimes putting so many in a bag they can barely lift it. That is a wonderful summer. We're also seeing building usage returning. We were thrilled last month to start seeing over 600 people coming into the library in a day, which is sort of some of our close to our pre-pandemic numbers, so that was wonderful. We're also seeing lots of public computer use returning. Many people coming in requesting technology help. Also people coming in for resume support, which is wonderful that we're there to help them do that. And finally, I wanted to let you know the summer reading program really has taken off again this year. We have our newest numbers are, we had 74 babies and toddlers signed up for the program. 1,183 kids aged 3 through 12 were registered this summer for reading together. And adult and teen registrations were also really robust. We had 358 adults and 187 teen readers, which was fantastic. Our community is really coming together, reading together, and coming into the library that they know and love. Looking to fall, I just wanted to give you a little look ahead. We're working again with the State COG Area School District on our Slow to School program. That's where we make it possible with the State COG Area School District to get books that students and staff request, just materials in general, and we have them delivered to the school by the school district, which is fantastic. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we are in episode 3 of the Center County Happy Valley Adventure Bureau and Local Historia conglomeration. It's called Hidden Happy Valley, and it's a series of short virtual tours that focus on some lesser known history besides some of our favorite little spots across the region. It's wonderful, and episode 3 is going to be on SLO's YouTube channel this Saturday, August 28th at 9 a.m. So I hope that you all have a chance to check that out. Those episodes have been really fantastic. So thank you very much for your time tonight, and also thank you for your support.
Questions of Lisa? Thank you, Lisa.
Bye.
Have a good day. Committee reports, executive, Mr. Frank.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the agenda covers the agenda of this evening's meeting, and the synopsis in the agenda covers the majority. The only thing I would reference is that the exec committee did meet and had a special meeting on August 10th, 2021 to discuss the Penn State letter, and then an add-on on the Parks and Recreation Governance Structure Task Force. There was general support for moving forward. Staff is going to do some research on the mechanics of how we might do that.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Evan?
Mr. Chair, the notes in the agenda adequately and more than adequately cover our meeting and state very well what we are working on.
Good. Human Resources, Nigel? Who's chair?
Mr. Strauss.
Bob?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll defer to the notes in the agenda as well. Rebecca was kind enough to put that together for me, and she said it better than I could, so.
Thank you, Bob. Park Capital.
Did not meet.
Public safety?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will also refer to the agenda as being a good comprehensive synopsis of our meeting. I will add that we did decide to go ahead and not mandate, but invite the police chiefs to the annual large public safety meeting where we have a lot of folks come together and discuss issues in the region. So we did decide to go ahead and do that, and other than that, we did have a brief discussion too on how the name public safety can confuse people a little bit because they always understand police stuff fall within that, and that here in the center region, because of our unique structure, folks sometimes, don't understand that that's like a municipal function and we don't have a regional police force that would fall under the COG purview, so that we can do a good job of educating folks about that and why that name is as it is and in our unique structure. So thanks for everybody's help on doing that. Thank you very much.
Public service and transportation, August 5, the description in the agenda adequately discusses what we did. Facilities did not meet. Climate actions, sustainability, Betsy?
Yes, I would like to expand slightly on the notes that were provided for us in the agenda, to say that the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, affectionately known as CAP, is proceeding apace with the work of Pam Allens. And I want to give a heads up to everybody here that the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee will be looking at the final draft of that at our September meeting, at which time, if it meets with enough approval, we'll pass it on to the executive committee, and those of us in the general forum will see the draft presented at the September meeting, and then it will be kicked back to municipalities for comments, with the final step being hopefully approval of the final draft at the November general forum meeting. So because this provides the step-by-step plan and how we move forward in tackling our climate needs, I'm excited to see this action, and I just want to give you a heads up that it will be coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are 11 matters of record. Does anyone wish to discuss any of those? Otherwise, we would do a consent type. Okay. 16 is adjournment.
So moved.
Got it. Second.
Second.
Right here.
Bye, y'all.